Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
This is a Pundit Press news break. I'm Dan Butcher. The families of Americans held in Iran have told Congress now is the time to demand their release. The families of 3 Americans held in Iran told lawmakers that now is the time for the U.S. to demand their release. Relatives of Amir Hekmati, Saeed Abedini, and Robert Levison all testified before the House Foreign Affairs Committee, saying any leverage the U.S. has to bring home their loved ones could run out within weeks. The U.S. and other Western powers are negotiating with Tehran to drop sanctions against the Islamic Republic in exchange for guarantees it won't pursue nuclear weapons and has set a deadline for the end of this month. Sarah Hekmati, the sister of U.S. Marine Amir Hekmati, 31, who was arrested in 2011 when he went to visit relatives, had this to say: "Now is the time that this issue could and should be resolved. For over 3 years, our family has been living a nightmare. We are in constant fear for his health, his safety, and his life. We are now seeing a spike in bomb threats against U.S. flights. A rash of bomb threats were made against at least 5 U.S. flights on Tuesday, prompting the evacuation and search of one U.S. Airways plane in Philadelphia, according to reports on the incidents, which appeared to be more widespread than previously believed. These threats follow a series of similar incidents beginning in late May, in which an anonymous individual called local police and other authorities to warn against explosive and chemical attacks on at least 10 flights. The FBI is investigating the threats against international flights, but it remains unclear whether domestic ones have also been subjected to a rash of threatening calls. The threats made on Tuesday against the 5 flights were deemed not credible after investigation by authorities. However, the phoned-in threats have disrupted air travel for many and raised alarms about the prospect of a terror attack. While it remains unclear who is behind the threatening calls, some reports claim they are being carried out by those sympathetic to the Islamic State terror group. Now, we have a twist on the story surrounding the Oregon bakers who face a major fine for refusing to make a gay wedding cake. Now, like I said, there's a new twist in the story of Aaron and Melissa Klein, the owners of Sweet Cakes by Melissa, the Oregon bakery that possibly faces a massive fine for refusing to make a wedding cake for a lesbian couple. Questions about whether a gay rights group has been closely communicating with the state agency tasked with handling discrimination complaints. Questions of bias are emerging over communications between the Oregon Bureau of Labor and Industries and Basic Rights Oregon, a gay rights group, according to the Daily Signal, a conservative news website run by the Heritage Foundation, which reports that the two appeared to be, quote, working closely. Records indicate that officials with the government body were, quote, participating in phone calls, texting, and attending meetings with Basic Rights Oregon, including claims that Commissioner Brad Havakin met several times with the group, developments that the Heritage Foundation senior legal counsel Hans von Spakovsky called a blatant conflict of interest. Emails published by the Daily Signal show communications between the state agency and Basic Rights Oregon, with the outlet reporting that Avakin took a call from a co-director of the gay rights group in October of 2014, and that an organization employee wrote an email to the commissioner in December 2014 calling him, quote, a coalition partner. You have been listening to a Pundit Press news break on the SHR Media Network.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work there, too. Well, those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late night conservative talk, Hackheads Radio.
Hack News. Hack News.
Radio.
Hack News. Hack News.
Radio.
Sack.
The best late night conservative talk show in America. In America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
You're out of breath.
Why did you guys change the locks?
Listen.
That's not funny.
Listen, that was the last obstacle in your banishment.
No.
You're in now.
Not only was the door locked.
You're
Stop.
in now.
No, stop.
Welcome back, my friend.
The door's locked. There's a sign with an arrow. I follow it all the way around the house. It has a ladder up to the third floor. I go up to the third floor, and there's a handsaw and an arrow pointing to the floor.
Right.
I had to go through 2 floors.
Yes, you did.
To get into the office.
Well, hang on a second. There was a sign in the second portion that said ninja entrance only.
Yeah.
To be fair,
it was a 3x5 air vent.
Right.
And not feet. I wasn't getting in.
Right. We had to make it interesting for you.
So
you made it back to civilization. Congratulations.
Absolutely.
How was that old Milwaukee?
Oh, it was like making love in a canoe.
Close to water.
Yes, very close. To my personal friend, Chocolate for his show prior to ours, Ken McClinton, the exceptional one himself. Boy, a lot of talk about this week. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Good.
I gotta be honest. I'm a little disappointed that you didn't get here a little sooner.
Well, I walked in.
The fact that the gauntlet was a little bit more challenging than perhaps it should have been for you. And I understand you were probably dehydrated and hungry because you haven't really eaten too much other than the berries that we left for you and whatnot.
First of all, I just finally found the razor, which would have helped me on the first night.
Well, there's a reason we put it where we put it.
I didn't realize you guys were going to knock me out first.
Well, at least we knocked you out first.
Okay, good call. I'll leave it at that.
Well, and we put it in a sharp shuttle, one of those cylindrical tubes that's tapered at the end for, like, hypodermic needles and whatnot.
The whole time I just thought I was sick.
No.
Oh, wrong on so many levels. So it's so nice to be back. I'm not going to lie.
Then why are you lying right now?
I miss doing the show from the studio. Calling in via Skype from a cage.
From an undisclosed location.
And, to be honest with the listeners, it was one of those things where they tell you to walk like a day in somebody else's shoes. So I did 2 weeks as Sacco.
Right.
And so I was and it's miserable. I now understand why he's an angry little man.
Yeah, but you're not an angry little man.
No, but for the 2 weeks...
You're very happy. You're thankful.
I am very thankful. For 2 weeks, I was miserable.
Yeah, but we didn't really feed you.
Well, that's true.
We feed Sacco.
We throw stuff at Sacco, yes.
We feed him. I mean, we have that sign, don't feed the Sacco.
Don't feed the Sacco. We're going to have that in Vegas. We will absolutely have that at our booth in Vegas at Freedom Fest.
Don't feed the Sacco.
Don't feed the Sacco.
We need a T-shirt.
I want a fake, maybe I'll do it out of PVC like a cage that we can put around him at the engineer board.
Why not get a real cage? He could fit in one of those. He could fit in one of those big, like, dog crates.
Just don't stick your. And then we'll just
because
have
his regular cage is too large and heavy to transport.
Right. I don't
Las
know.
Vegas.
I'd have to strap it to the top of the wagon.
I don't think it would.
Because we are taking the Wagon Queen family truckster down to Vegas.
We are.
We already have a lot of equipment. And then he's going to get all the bugs in his fur, and he'll complain. We'll have to give him a shampoo bath once we get there.
Right, and probably.
And based on what I've read about Petco and pets lately, that's not the place to bring them. Because apparently they leave dogs to die in their crates, so that's not good. You didn't hear that story?
No.
A family brought their dog in to get trimmed, and they left him in a crate. It looks like out back while they were getting ready, and he baked in the sun and died of heat exhaustion.
Really?
So we won't do that to Saco.
I wonder how much money they're going to pay that family.
Oh, depends on what state you're in, though, because most states just consider it property.
You got to replace the property.
Right. It's hard to put monetary value on that. I'm one of those people, and this is where I go a little crazy with dogs. I think dogs are part of the family. But yeah, it's that one was a little weird for me. So we can't do that to Saco. We can't get there and drop him off to get trimmed and nails and all that stuff.
We'll throw water on him while we're driving through the desert. What's the problem?
Then all the sand, and then he's going to be caked, and we'll have to shear him again. Do you remember the last time we had to shear Saco?
Oh, no, I remember the last time we branded Saco.
Well, yes. And hopefully people won't get to see that, because that's our special brand. It's actually our insignia, the pirate's head and all that. Yeah.
Yep.
Kind of our version of the Jolly Roger. That's what's on Saco. But he'll have like caked bugs and sand and all that stuff. We just can't. We can't do that. So I think
that makes the whole "Don't feed the Saco" sign even better when he's in that condition.
I do have one of those backseat dog slings that we'll have for him in the Wagon Queen on the way down. So that'll work out well. And then when we get there, I'm hoping. Maybe there's like a valet or concierge there that we can drop him off and have him cleaned up and have him brought back to us when we're ready to see him in public. But I don't like talking about him because he knows we're talking about him right now.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't even have his headset on now.
I think he knows.
Listen, I spent the last 2 weeks in studio with him. He has no idea
that
we're talking about him right now.
Either way, so we're looking forward to Freedom Fest 2015, July 8th to 11th. Las Vegas, Nevada. We're going to have a great lineup. There's already a great lineup there. Golf Dogs in the chat. If you're not in the chat room, shrmedia.com, click on live chat. He's not in bondage. There's a difference. Bondage is like something you kind of enter into.
And he enjoys it.
He needs to be in a crate. No, he needs to be in a crate. Per the law. We have to have shots every single year. We have to have,
and we can't leave Saco with a collar because he's into this whole weird like asphyxiation thing. So he ends up like hooking it up certain ways.
Well, right, and he keeps like leaning against, which is just weird.
It's weird,
just bizarre.
And then he starts panting, but I don't think it's because he's
kids.
Hot.
It's just weird kids thing. And then he kept saying I'm like the guy from Kung Fu. I don't know what that means. I just don't know.
Wait, the panda?
No,
or the David Carradine.
David Carradine. And he likes a lot of NXS albums. That's all I'm saying.
Right. He might like some Erasure, too. I don't know. It's unconfirmed.
So what's going on with you, man?
Nothing. Good intro.
Topic.
So first up, Texas has a new open carry law. It was surprisingly, as pro-gun as Texas is, they've actually had a ban for about 140 years on carrying handguns openly within the state. And the House and Senate in the state passed legislation that would allow open carry of handguns again in the state of Texas. The governor has announced, who's a big pro-2A. Governor Abbott, he says that he is going to sign the bill into law. So Texas will be an open carry state. I was surprised it was not. But I guess there's really no need to be when you're issuing gun permits to about 850,000 residents, which I'm in support of. I think it's great. Close to 1 million people in Texas. I'm surprised it's not more. It should be more. But there's also a plan that will allow people to carry, including students, that will allow them to carry their guns in like both public and private dormitories, classrooms, so campuses and whatnot on college. which would be great. To get one, you're going to have to be 21 years of age, pass a background check, do all that stuff. But being able to carry that openly, I think, is going to be huge. And the C.J. Grisham, the CEO of Open Carry Texas, says, and I think it's a great point, criminals aren't afraid of prison. They're afraid of getting shot.
Well, yeah.
I mean, prison for them is like college. They get a whole different level of education in criminality. But they don't want to be shot. And, of course, the opponents are screaming, oh, my God, it's going to be like a bloodthirsty state again. But there was a crime statistic that came out that 0.3% of crime is committed by folks that were lawfully carrying a firearm.
That's amazing, isn't it?
0.3%. I guess none of them have had weapons that have randomly jumped out of the holster and run around willy-nilly shooting people. So I don't know if all of the state just gets broken handguns.
Right.
Because I heard they're supposed to do something like that.
Yeah.
Or whether people are actually just responsible. Or maybe nobody loads a gun in Texas. I don't know. I don't know what's happening there with that trend.
Well, yeah, and that's, it's one of those strange things. I really wish these gun makers would get it together and fix, I just bought a new weapon. It hasn't gone off yet.
Right, well, other than when you pull
randomly,
the trigger.
Right, but no, I mean randomly.
I'd send it back, Sean.
And here's the other thing, too, is I don't have this overwhelming need to commit a crime because I have it. That's the other thing.
See, so something's wrong.
I still have to wait the 10-day waiting period, which makes me laugh.
Right.
Which it's going away, but the whole theory of that alone always made me laugh because I'm like, if I already own one, why am I going to buy a shiny new one to do something horrible?
Right.
And if I'm crazy, if that means that much to me...
How's about this? How about a 10-day waiting period on, like, a new barrel?
Right.
Right? Something to where, you know what, I'm going to commit a crime, I'm going to need to switch out my barrel.
Right. So I'm going to wait 10 days.
Right. Or, hey, I need to change out my extractor rod, my firing pin, and my barrel to completely change the signature of how this gun fires. Not that I have any knowledge about how to do any of this stuff, but I'm just saying, hypothetically.
If I was going to,
to.
I've read one place that you could do that. No, and you know what? And I was shocked as you were. And I remember Texas getting rid of their open carry like 10 years ago, I think it was. And I was blown away by it. I couldn't believe Texas.
I see what you did there. Open carry blown away.
Yeah. But I was.
You winked at me when you said it, which was cute.
I was in complete shock. The Texas. So I'm really glad. And listen, Governor Abbott's sticking to
his guns on this one.
Sticking to his guns on this one. And you know what? I am envious as a resident of this state that is just the most anti-gun state in the union. I am envious of those in Texas when it comes to things like this. And I'm just happy. I'm happy for the people of Texas. It's a win for the Second Amendment. It's a win for law-abiding citizens all over the country.
And law-abiding citizens as well.
Because it gives hope. It gives hope that maybe us too someday will be able to once again live by the Constitution.
No.
Yeah, I know. It's probably not going to happen here. But that's not the point.
The Constitution of the state of California.
Good point.
But not the United States Constitution. Look, I like the component of it regarding schools also.
Yes.
Particularly with the active shooter threats, active killer threats, and so forth.
Well, and then we covered the story.
They're going to think twice.
Absolutely. We covered the story last year of the girl in Reno, Nevada, who was a CCW, carried her gun everywhere, could not carry it onto school grounds. While she was on school grounds, she was sexually assaulted and raped.
Yep.
And could not defend herself because she did not have her weapon with her.
Right.
And there's been a lot of other cases. Like you said, active shooter. How many active shooter situations wouldn't be minimized? You're not going to stop it. We talk about this all the time. You're not going to stop criminal behavior. We need to stop how we approach it.
But it's like the theater shooter, right, when the Batman movie came out.
Right.
He didn't go to the theater that was closest to his house.
No.
He went to the theater that specifically prohibited the carrying of firearms.
Right. And he also, and by the way, have you followed that at all?
And the Santa Barbara killer,
same place. He
same
went to
thing.
School grounds.
He was gonna go to one area, and he, like in his journal or whatever, he's like, oh no, there's too many cops, and so there were guns there, and so he went elsewhere. That
also ruins his insanity plea, just like the theater shooter, because the theater shooter said, "Oh, I went late at night to minimize the death of children."
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, so
you thought about it
rationally. You thought about it rationally. I don't want to hurt children.
I don't know how rational that is, but
But you know what I mean.
You had some thought. You had some coherent thought process that was involved.
So that's
in
this
whole thing.
But either way, I'm happy for the people of Texas.
Look, China. We talked before about China building these artificial islands, and new surveillance images came out from the United States that shows that China has actually positioned artillery on at least one of the artificial islands that they have in the South China Sea. And there was some speculation when they were building these islands. Is there some military purpose? Is it to get closer to what's the purpose? And so now it seems like it's confirmed. There's obviously a military purpose there. I mean, what are they going to build?
There's a landing strip.
They're gonna build islands, and they have to get the
artillery there
somehow, right? So there's obviously a military.
Philippines, I think, has a stake in it somehow.
They're barbecuing.
Luxembourg, Luxembourg, and Iceland. I think they all have
and Canada.
You're like this is it's an island in the middle of the ocean. It's not the Republican presidential election committee.
But that's not the point. And this artillery is supposedly within range of one of the islands that's claimed by Vietnam, and Vietnam has armed that particular island for a period of time. So I don't know.
Now, I think later this week or later this month, you have a joint Russia and Chinese war games thing going on.
Yeah. I feel okay about it though, because the Chinese embassy said that the artificial islands are primarily used for civilian purposes.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Well, between their word and the word of Iran and nukes and all that stuff, I feel pretty good about it. Listen, the only thing with China, unlike the other countries that we talk about on a regular basis, China does have something to lose in a war. They're enjoying very prosperous times over there right now. This whole capital communism that they have going on there it is kind of working for them. And the people in power they also see the weak foreign policy that we have in this country, the whole kind of back off and let things happen approach that the UN and the world has taken.
Yeah, but here's the thing, right? The State Department spokesman, John Kirby, gave a statement to the Journal. He says that, hey, look, Secretary of State John Kerry has given China clear warning, and here's the quote.
Would he ride a bike towards them?
We watch every outpost in the South China Sea carefully and monitor the actions of the countries concerned. I can assure you that Secretary Kerry is in touch with the claimants, including China. It gets better, and has been very clear in warning against actions that escalate tensions. What are we going to do?
Wag that finger, baby.
Right.
Wag it hard.
We're warning you against actions that escalate tensions.
Shake your fist harder, boy.
Or what are you going to do? You going to escalate tensions?
The same thing we're going to do when the Russian Su-24 buzzes our ship, the USS Ross. We're going to file a complaint with the right. Well, what's that going to do? Russia, you're going to file a complaint with the country that ordered it?
Right.
Ooh. You're really working on some shaky ground there, Haas. I mean, there's that doesn't do anything. How about this?
I'm sure they're going to investigate the complaint.
Oh, well, yeah. Why wouldn't they investigate it? If I was Japan right now, I'd build a runway on the other side of the island and start setting up shop right over there. Be like, well, if this is for civilian purposes, we need this too. Just like
we're here with you.
We're here with you. Our civilians can work together. That's just how we are. Just to see. If I was Japan, I'd be so aggravated by all this. You know how China approaches Japan. You know that China thinks they should own Japan again.
Well, I mean, Japan did kind of invade China at the outset of World War II. I mean, there was some...
That was a while ago.
Generation
I'm not saying.
ago.
I'm not saying.
Right?
I'm not saying. But, but since then, since we put Japan in their place...
Right. And since we bailed China out...
Right. Then Japan's been kind of at bay. So let's just let it be what it is.
Right.
But, I mean, you look at China's always looking to grow their influence.
Why don't we send China a bill for what we did during
Clinton?
World War II?
Gladly. Out of a plane, 35,000 feet with the parachute.
Good idea. But, I mean like a
No,
financial
because think
bill.
about how many
Financial bill.
half Asian Bill Clintons will be running
There'd
around
be a
in
million
15
of them.
years.
No, think about this, right? So China wants to collect this debt. We send them a bill. Well, we sent you volunteers at $1 million per minute of flight time.
We set the prices.
We set the prices.
Well, you have
because
to
we're
work
capitalists.
inflation. You have to adjust for inflation.
Right. Plus the aircraft.
Right.
Plus when
Lives lost.
Right. Plus when we came over, and so you actually owe us.
Right. So let's talk about that little thing about a debt. If we want to work that off, that would be great.
Right. Yeah, that would be great.
You don't want to get into that argument. I don't care who you are or what money you think somebody owes. You just don't want to get into that argument.
No, you're not going to go start swinging your purse around, right? Right, acting like a little sore loser or something, like because China is doing this, right?
Absolutely.
They're acting like,
but it doesn't matter. I mean, at the end of the day, China. I don't think China will press the issue. I think it's going to be kind of like Russia is with Ukraine. I think if everyone backs off, they're going to hold that island. That island will be theirs. It doesn't matter who disputes it; they're going to operate on it. Possession's 9/10 of the law in that regard. I mean, nobody's going to go knock them off and tell them they have to leave. We're not going to bomb it. Oh, yes. If I was Japan, right, just 3 in the morning.
Wasn't ours.
Wasn't ours. No, they signature radar wasn't ours. What are you going to do next? What's China's response? All-out invasion? No. They actually have too much to lose at this point. See, with a country like that, though, you can negotiate through diplomatic terms a little bit more than an Iran and a Russia. Not all out, because it's still China.
Right.
But when a country has something to lose, you now have the ability to have an open dialogue with them.
Absolutely, and which is why China is telling, like, little Kim, hey.
Shh. Ixnay on the Ambe. No Ambe, to which he responds, Ahara.
And then China says, we invented Aharo.
Oh, Boyington.
That'd be Japan.
Well,
Boyington.
I'm sorry, I couldn't remember which country we were talking about. It was such. No, it was one of the such a great
need to watch
show
an episode
Black
of
Sheep
that
Squadron.
now. Baba
That's
Black
where
Sheep.
That's right. That's one of the places that I got that.
Where John Larroquette
got his start. Absolutely.
And that was me. Before you say, and somebody quoted it, we were at a particular coffee location.
No. I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm saying somebody asked me last week on email, like, where I derived that impression from for Little Kim. And I said it came from 2 places. One, it came from Black Sheep.
Right.
And then it came from Team America World Police, and I just kind of
tweaked the two.
Yeah, tweaked the two. Made it my own.
But I remember because you'd forgotten all about that.
Oh,
and
I
forget
I
what
hadn't
we were
seen
talking
for years.
about something. But we were at a particular
we were talking about World War II, most likely.
Location. Yeah, and it just came
out.
Oh,
Boyington.
And you had that exact same reaction. Just a big old guttural laugh.
Try getting that on the air today.
There was a couple high fives exchanged.
No, there was
and then it took
a couple of angry tourists walked by.
It took you a minute.
Yeah.
But you got it.
No, I knew. I don't know if it took me as long as you said. I grew up
you were
watching
laughing.
it. Oh, yes. I absolutely was laughing.
Because it snapped, but it took you like a minute before you were able to say.
Such a great show.
I love that show.
Good historic show. A lot of fun to watch, too.
And John Larroquette from Night Court.
Dan
from Night Court. Got his start.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Show.
He was the guitar player, kind of the...
He was the pilot.
Well... Sacco, can we have a break, please?
We're 2 minutes
This is
past.
ridiculous. He was the pilot. They were all pilots.
He was the pilot.
It was Black Sheep Squadron.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians.
You got a business. You didn't build that.
A team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying cow for the stupid pro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at
the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Who listens to the Andrea Kaye Show? Let's find out as we eavesdrop on listener Roger Johnson in Encinitas.
You know, if our policy is going to be bring any child who comes across the border to coordination, we got to take them in.
Okay, so apparently Roger fell asleep in the middle of my brilliant political tirade, and now he plans to sue me because I put him on the air, sleeping. Obviously, he's a liberal.
Snoring, not an option while listening to the Andrea Kaye Show, Tuesday mornings at 11 on Financial News and Talk.
You know I'm right. Y'all know I'm right.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
And we're back here on the Sackheads Radio Show and live on the SHR Media Network. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're not already, click on the live chat button and jump in and join us, please. So I want to talk about out of my hometown that happened yesterday morning. Boston Police, Joint Terrorism Task Force, and the FBI were involved in a shooting in which a man by the name of Osama Rahim was shot and killed.
I'm sure it wasn't terror-related.
Well, not... That was the first. Before, and it came out in the news pretty quick. And I actually, before it hit national, I picked it up on the local news. One of the local news agencies had. I just happened to be watching it when it happened, and the first thing I said was, "Okay, Boston Police, JTTF, and the FBI are watching this guy. Can't be ISIS related, right? Not. What are the odds? Apparently, really well. Apparently, this guy is Osama Rahim." Is 26 years old. He'd been under surveillance for an extended period of time. He was contacted outside of a CVS pharmacy where he worked. At about 7 a.m., they were going to place him into custody, place him under arrest. When they approached and identified himself, he pulled out a weapon and lunged enough that the officers had to fire in defense, ultimately killing him. Rahim has been on social media with ISIS-sympathizing websites as well, following ISIS. He was in contact with at least one other person in the area, a guy by the name of, and I have this down here, it's David Evans. No, wait, that's the Chief Evans. I shouldn't get those two confused. Either way, another guy in the area. And the two had been planning, according to the FBI, an attack on law enforcement in which they were planning on trying to behead a police officer in the area. The attack was so imminent that they felt that they had to take action right then and there that morning. Like I said, he'd been under surveillance for an extended period of time. he had in his possession the knife he used in the attack was they called it a military-style knife. It's a hunting knife.
It's a knife.
I hate throwing the word military on it just because it's painted OD green and has a black blade. That's ridiculous. It's a hunting knife. It's a survival knife.
It's a big knife.
Not in this case. It wasn't a survival knife because
it
didn't help him.
It didn't help him at all.
Not at all. You would have thought that he would have done
it helped
better.
the officers that shot him.
But it's a Bowie knife with a 9.75-inch blade that he bought a few days earlier. I'm sure that might have been the catalyst as well as to why they approached him. But apparently when the officers were approaching him and identifying themselves, they said, "Drop the weapon," to which Rahim responded, "You drop yours." So here's not a guy who's maybe hesitating a little bit.
Right, and here's not a guy who really understands maybe physics.
Right. Never bring a knife to a gunfight.
Or firepower. Right, Sean Connery. Was that Presidio?
Leave it to a Dago to bring a knife to a gunfight.
Oh, Untouchables.
Untouchables.
Yeah. I was thinking it might have been Presidio, right? I'll beat you with my left thumb.
Yes,
right
exactly.
Far too powerful for you.
And immediately there was an imam out in California, Imam Abdullah Farouk, who got
was that any relation to Veronica Farouk from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory?
Negative, but
same last name or similar?
And I'm sorry, that's not the brother. That was a different imam who was not questioned, but spoken to afterwards. But his brother, who's out in the Lighthouse Mosque in Oakland, California, said, "Oh, this guy, my brother was on the phone with the police when it happened. He was at a bus stop and he was shot 3 times in the back, within 35 minutes of this happening."
Right.
Well, not so much. Boston police
Too bad there's not video of that where they could have shown people.
They had video. They had video of the entire incident. They actually invited members of the community, leaders of the community, to watch to stem that argument right off the bat.
Right.
With the exception of one of the people who was and that was the Imam Abdullah Farouk, who said that he wasn't shot in the back, but the quality was poor and it wasn't clear whether or not police had to use deadly force. He was really the only naysayer. And that's not even a naysaying. That's an uneducated guess.
Right. Right, that's somebody who's never had a knife pulled on them.
Right, never been in that situation. The other people involved all kind of came out and said, yeah, it's pretty air apparent what happened. So that kind of put that to bed right away. So that took a lot of steam out of the anti-ISIS people in this country because social media lit up. Oh, he was shot in the back, and it's just the police killing Muslims again, and there's a war on Islam, and blah, blah, and then all of a sudden, it's on video? Crap. Well, maybe they should have shot him in the leg. That argument started almost immediately. Well, you should have shot him in the leg. You should have shot him in the... Well, that's not real life, pal.
Right.
Let's
look at that absurd argument for a moment, shall we?
Let's.
So let's shoot somebody in the leg.
Uh-huh.
So extreme stress is starting to take over, right? Uh-huh. You have a loss of fine motor skills, which means your ability for fine aiming, I'm guessing, would be decreased.
Uh-huh.
You have the legs, something that is moving rapidly, and a much smaller, thinner target to hit.
And you're backing up.
Well, hang on a second.
Sorry.
And you're backing up or not.
I just said that.
Let's say you're not.
But these officers were, so let's add that to the argument.
So they're moving. Mm-hmm. Legs of the bad guy are moving. You're trying to aim for those legs. There's going to be a high probability of missing.
Yeah.
Which means you're going to endanger more innocent people behind this individual that's trying to cut your head off. Or you can shoot for the body, which is a much larger target. Mm-hmm. It doesn't move as easily or as quickly as the legs. It's one large mass. No offense, Sean. As opposed to smaller targets in the legs, and greater likelihood that the person will be stopped in that case. And because you have a greater likelihood for a hit, you have a reduced chance that innocent people are going to be hit. So by these knuckleheads saying shoot for the legs, shoot the knife out of his hands. So basically you're advocating putting the public at a greater risk.
Yeah, it's a foolish argument to have.
It's an ignorant argument to have.
Within an hour, officers responded to a scene in Everett, Massachusetts, and that was the second person's home. They took a man into custody, and they were searching intently, as well as Pawtucket, Rhode Island, Warwick, Rhode Island, which is just south. It's only about 45 minutes south of Boston, where a 17-year-old said the police had asked him about a man by the name of Nick, who was in his 20s. The teenager described Nick as a man who often wears long robes and prays in his front yard. That's all the information we have.
Plays in his own front yard or prays in the kid's front yard?
I don't know. He didn't really go into that. That's a good follow-up question. I hope they ask that at some point. So, we talk about ISIS, and we talk about terror attack in this country and Islamic extremists and all that other stuff.
Not till 9:30 we do.
But for the naysayers and the people who don't think that these sort of plots aren't being hatched. And now this week, we had the FBI come out and say that there are so many tips and leads going out there that they can't keep up with it. Law enforcement, and they just can't keep up with it.
And look, we talked about the president cutting the program of military surplus things. We talked about it on this show, I believe 2 weeks in a row. And
now three,
because we're going to touch on it again. Because one of the cruxes of our arguments on this show or discussion points was, hey, law enforcement is fighting the war on terror here at home.
Very much so.
They killed a terrorist in Boston, just like the military has been killing terrorists, absolutely, over in the Middle East. There's no difference. And here's yet another example where you had a terrorist who was killed by police. Remember the active shooter attack that was thwarted in Texas by the law enforcement officer, motor officer there. So here you have another example of that, and it just again proves our point that our law enforcement officers, our first line of defense here at home, needs to be equipped to deal with this.
Yes, absolutely. And it's going to get worse before it gets better, and I truly believe that. And if you talk to members in the law enforcement community, they believe that too. You look at the incident in Ferguson, and even though it wasn't ISIS in that particular situation, but you just had two people convicted of plotting to blow up the police station. So when people say, "Oh, why do you need the big defensive trucks and blah blah blah?" Well, that's why.
No, they don't say defensive. trucks.
No, they say
they have big
war
armored
trucks,
tanks.
The big tanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's reasons like that are why. But you have to realize, like you said, law enforcement is the first one in this country to be on scene. And if they're not able to respond quickly, in this situation it was a guy and a knife. But who says that's going to be? Or what if that guy and the knife is inside a school, and all of a sudden we have to wait, or this, that, and we don't know it's just a knife. You don't know what he has on him, IEDs or whatever. I mean, you look at the Boston Marathon bombers on the night of the pursuit when they were shot and captured. They had explosives, high explosives, so high-powered explosives on top of the weapons and everything else. So, the threat is real. Law enforcement, the boots on the ground in this country, get it. The administration acts like it's not going to happen.
Whoa. Are you saying we have boots on the ground here in the United States?
Yes. Yeah, our cops on the front line are our boots on the ground for this.
We can't have boots on the ground here.
All right,
this
sneakers.
Is not a military
high heels.
snake.
Our high heels on the ground.
This is not. How's about sandals? Like Birkenstocks.
Flip-flops.
Flip-flops on the ground. Yeah.
But, and this is, again, just the ones who get caught. The problem is that I've said this before, the problem we forget in this country is at some point it's going to be successful. And, with the passing of the USA Freedom Act and the signature on that, the argument is, well, would you rather be safe? Or would you rather pass this? And that's really the administration's kind of...
I'd rather have my personal liberties.
I'd rather have my personal liberties.
Because if I could exercise my 2A rights, I would be safe.
Right. Well, but you look at it, for the years that we've had successful terrorism attacks with the Patriot Act in place. So it's really not...
Name one.
Boston Marathon bombing. And we've had many different attempts. It doesn't thwart people, and the ones who are committing these acts don't care. They will find a way around it. They always do. So the arguments, I think I said it today, is at some point we need to accept the fact that we're probably going to have another attack in this country. Until we actually stop ISIS and people are allowed to defend themselves, we are probably going to have another attack with substantial loss of life at some point. And it may not be one incident that takes a lot of lives. It's going to be a lot of little incidents that takes a few lives here and there. And even with the passing of the USA Freedom Act, which I love, that's the cutest little name. You put lipstick on a pig.
Yeah, you're talking about the U.S. Constitution, right, when it was ratified?
Exactly.
Oh, that's not the one you were talking about.
No.
The Restrictions Act.
As my friend Paul would say, you put in a rose in a pig's butt. You can call it whatever you want. It still stinks. But it's not going to stop this. And it won't stop this. And as much as we've talked about it, you think that, you have idiots like this guy who's on social media
following... Why are you pointing to Sacco?
Sorry. This guy who was shot and killed. You have idiots like that who will use open social media, but they're eventually going to start sidestepping that. And there's some, even with the Patriot Act and the USA Freedom Act, or whatever they want to call it, there's still some electronic communications that they cannot hack. There are websites out there and emails out there who are now making a fortune because the NSA cannot penetrate their firewall and retrieve the emails.
Well, it's interesting you bring up the USA Freedom Act, and you're not talking about the Constitution this time.
The original Freedom Act.
Because it's confusing, right, the original Freedom Act. Didn't Shepard Smith have an interview?
Yes, with Josh Earnest.
Yeah. And there was a great show on earlier that was talking about this. They spent like an hour on this interview. I mean, just a phenomenal show. The guy is just amazing. Not quite as amazing as we are on Sackheads Radio.
About 50% is amazing.
But about 50%. And the name of the show is, help me out with it, Sean.
Oh, it's called The Edge of Liberty on 1360 AM WNJC in Philadelphia at 12 in the East, 9 in the West, and all over the world on the internet at Spreaker.com and SHRmedia.com. Chat rooms open live.
And Sackhead Sean is actually, I believe, the host.
Yeah,
but
guy.
It's not Sackhead Sean.
It's just Sean Lewis.
Sean.
It's my alter ego.
Right.
When I'm here, I'm like Batman.
When you're here, you have the cape on.
I am.
Right.
And during the day, it's my Bruce Wayne. I'm driving around in the fancy car.
Right.
Just trying to make it look good. Trying to convince people.
But you actually talked about this on your show, and you did an amazing job. And Shepard Smith surprisingly hit him with it.
Yeah, hit him hard.
And the first question he asked, I don't want to steal your thunder.
No, it's fine. I've already talked about this once today, but through all the questions that he asked, the very first one out of the gate, Shepard Smith said to him, "What's it like to be lockstep with not only the Republicans and Democrats, but President George W. Bush?"
Yeah.
By passing this act. And, and my listeners say, will tell you, they're trying to get the caveat of, we've added a few things today. We've added a few things to this that now the phone company is going to hold the records and we have to get a warrant to go get the records. And the NSA doesn't just have general access. And Shepard Smith said, well, wait a minute. They have a computer there that will access it whenever they need to. And they have the FISA court, which is nothing.
But it's a court. There's a judge. It's got to be trustworthy.
Well, and that's where he hit him hard. And Shepard Smith did a great job on FISA. He and it was via Judge Napolitano, and I give him credit for that. He didn't take credit for the questioning or the facts that he was using. But he said the FISA court has no oversight. It's not a public court. There's no person who lobbies and defends the person being investigated. It is a judge sitting in a dark room somewhere, like Sauron or whatever.
Why's it got to be a dark room?
I don't know. It's just because I want it to be creepy.
Right, with cigars.
Fire cauldrons on either side. Right. Cauldrons of fire. And hounds of hell in front of him.
Hounds of hell.
Just screaming.
Howard Dean?
Yeah. And then you... Sorry. And then you have, they bring in like the jester brings in the prey. Is this acceptable?
It's like the devil's advocate.
And he says, yes. But at the end of the day, there's no government oversight. We don't know what goes on in these meetings. There's no records kept of these court appearances. No part of this is a court.
Is it even really a judge that's signing this?
We don't know. It could be a guy named Bob with a rubber stamp.
Or Clyde. Because they've dismissed 12 of these, right? They've kicked like 12 of them.
Out of 34,000 submissions to Pfizer court, 12. Number 1 and number 2, 12. One more than 11, one less than 13.
Well, yeah, because if they stop 13, then that's unlucky.
Right.
Because that would be the one that something like they should have listened
but 13 have been 12 have been denied. See, you're pushing me forward already. 12 have been denied, and it begs the question quite literally is, why can't they just do... First of all, if they wanted to have an ADA in there, even if the guy...
ADA, like what, a wheelchair ramp?
Or a defense attorney. If they had a defense attorney in there, even like a court, almost like a court-appointed one.
Yeah, I was like, what, you got to have a wheelchair guy going in there and doing that? Like you have some ADA?
And if you're the person under investigation, you may not know it, but at least you have an attorney lobbying for you and fighting for you. B, the fact that there are no records on this court whatsoever is frightening. I don't... A defense attorney in a wheelchair. Of course, the blind guy would know about the ADA, right? Figures. Agador in the chat room. I should have known, Ag.
You.
I'm sorry, buddy. But, why can't they have the transcripts and redact the names? So at least I, as a citizen, if I want to go back, just like you can in just about any court, if I want to go back and read what happened, I can. And then, if you get tried with something that started in Pfizer, then you should have the rights to be able to go back and pull your original record.
You do have those rights.
No, you don't.
No, you have them.
No, I'm sorry. You should be able to exercise the right that you have. I apologize. You're right. It's all phrasing. It's all just really bad phrasing. You should be able to do that because, as I said earlier, if your case ends up having what's called fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine, if from the beginning it was bad, then any investigation is bad. You can't have
all of that evidence gets suppressed.
Done.
Yep.
It might not. It doesn't. It shouldn't even matter. The only thing now in this entire country, in some states where that doesn't matter, is per se law with DUIs. There are some states where it doesn't matter why you get stopped. If you're drunk, it's done. That's the only exception that's been allowed ever when it comes to criminal law.
And a lot of that admin per se is they say, listen, driving is a privilege,
not a
right. And therefore, if you engage in the driving activity, if you're going to exercise that privilege, you are, by the very nature of having a license, you are granting your consent to these things. It's almost like a contractual agreement with the state because you don't want to have a license.
But it's different when it's your right.
Well, then don't, right? But this is a right.
This is Fourth Amendment right. At the minimum, there's a lot more.
This is a natural right.
This is a natural right of unlawful search and seizure. And that's why, and then all of a sudden this week we hear about these FBI planes that are doing these low passes with the Stingray machines and FLIR cameras that are somehow coordinating so they can do an overlay map and they can show your little dot that's you walking down the street, and it pops up your cell phone information of who you are next to it in cities all over the place. And I said before, this is different than when the FBI was chasing the mob and they were watching Guy A leave the drop place and carry the money to drop, and there was a guy in a helicopter following him so they didn't lose sight. This is if you're walking downtown and the guy next to you maybe once did something that the FBI looked at, you and everyone else in a 4-block area, your information now is popped up and being recorded that you were in that area at that time. It's just creepy to me.
You know what's going to happen? We're going to start having a trend where everybody's going to stop using all of this
electronics and stuff. No, because people don't care. They don't care. They'd rather tweet.
A lot of the people don't care, right? But bad guys, criminals, they're going to start going back old school because you can't get that now.
I hope they start saying words like "she." We're going to rob the bank, she. I hope they go real old school. Like, that would be awesome. I'd give them credit for character at that point.
Right, but you can't go, like, you can't.
Muggsy, get her, boys.
They're going to go back to using landlines, so now they're going to have to get wiretaps.
Oh,
right.
Well, I talked about this with ISIS a couple weeks ago.
Who even knows how to do a wiretap anymore?
Nobody does.
Right?
But look at Sacco was like, no, I know what a wiretap is when you use an ISDN line into a computer. No, that's not what that is.
That's not what a wiretap is.
But I said this with ISIS a couple weeks ago. How closely are we monitoring mail leaving this country? Because if I want to duck it, and if I'm
the
plotting...
Postal Service is on it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Or handwritten notes, old school drops, right? Leave your cell phone at a certain location, turn it off. Don't have one anymore, even if it's like a throwaway phone or something like one of these companies that you can put whatever bogus name you want on your cell bill. Just leave the cell all together around and just do old school.
See Clyde Billingsley
and drops. Look, these new agents coming out.
They're not going to know how to do with any of that stuff.
Stuff. They're going to have to pull guys. It's going to be like Space Cowboys. They're going to pull guys out of retirement to come and track these guys. You're going to have some 80-year-old flatfoot out there. I remember when we used to do this, kid.
Give me my wheel gun.
Right.
My old man used to call it, give me the wheel gun. Okay.
Ooh, that should be a great invention, tracking devices in every handgun. And so when you buy it, your information's encoded in it.
It already is.
No, like your personal information.
Yeah, it kind of already is.
Yeah, no, but like inside the gun somewhere.
Already is.
Oh.
They already have that, and you need to have a bracelet in order for it to shoot. Because, I forget to change the damn batteries in my smoke detector. What happens when I forget to change the batteries in my gun? Beep, 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 beep. Oh, damn it, I'm going to die.
Worse yet, what if you go down...
Wearing zoot suits.
What if you go down and somebody you're with needs to pick that up?
They have to chop my wrist off and take it with me.
Which is not a problem.
Can you just
you're not going to miss it.
Can you just picture like a rolling gunfight and there's some guy walking around with a stump of another round
here's
shooting?
the problem. Here's the problem. And then that other victim would survive, and some stinking liberal district attorney will charge him with like decimating a dead corpse.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You're getting charged with a felony.
Yeah, you chopped that body apart. Well, I had to get the gun. No, you could have died.
Right.
Just picture. It's like a Key and Peele skit. I don't know why I picture them doing something like that, but a whole new term, handgun ag, is on fire. But yeah, all of this is scary stuff, and again, it all kind of segues into each other.
But even without the bracelet, right? It's just your gun. Your information is in that chip.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant idea. I think we should do that. Who on the left wants to take that and run with it?
You know what would be better is every time I shot a gun, there was a little imprint on it.
Right.
So no matter what,
very cost effective.
Yeah, you could absolutely just read the serial number. That's outstanding.
Right. You know what would be even better is if every time you pull the trigger, a flower shoots out the end. Sako, when did you get a microphone?
I thought you were off tonight, Sako. I didn't think you were going to talk, and you're going to pull that.
I think he couldn't find the door closing.
He can't find the door closing. He can't find the sound clip.
That's how we're supposed to end the segment.
So he's just randomly grabbing sound effects until he gets the one he wants under the guise of being funny.
When we come back, there's a report I want to talk about, and it's an official report that says TSA sucks 96% of the time.
Official. That's the official report.
It's the official report.
Which is just awesome.
TSA sucks 96% of the time.
All that and more here on the Sackheads Radio Show, live on the SHR Media Network.
Really? Now you find it?
What kind of half-wit show is this?
Controlled by corrupt politicians.
You got a business. That you didn't build that.
A team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying cow for the stupid pro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sako as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on The Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberties, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Who listens to the Andrea Kaye Show? Let's find out as we eavesdrop on listener Roger Johnson in Encinitas.
You know, if our policy is going to be bring any child who comes across the border coordination, we got to take them in.
Okay, so apparently Roger fell asleep in the middle of my brilliant political tirade, and now he plans to sue me because I put him on the air, sleeping. Obviously, he's a liberal.
Snoring, not an option while listening to the Andrea Kaye Show, Tuesday mornings at 11 on Financial News and Talk.
You know I'm right. Y'all know I'm right.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
And welcome back to the Sackheads Radio Show live in the SHR Media Network. So, I got to give out a little safety tip or a little...
Sacco.
Good job, buddy. Best producer in the business for nothing, folks. Literally, he's the best producer in the business for nothing. If you don't pay him, he's the best one for it. So, a little man tip I got to give to everyone out there. Seriously, I'm not even joking right now. So, I've had a problem my whole life with skin irritation and shaving. Do you?
No.
No. Okay, well, you have skin like a 12-year-old boy, and I'm proud of you. But the rest of us men...
No wonder you look at me longingly. It's kind of weird, I'm not going to lie. Because you don't shave. We shear you, Sacco. We shear you. Yes, I do have that problem.
I went back to an old-school safety razor. The one blade, the old-fashioned, like old school safety razor.
Right, like Jack the Ripper style.
Yes. And I got
the folding razor.
No. The one that's it looks like the
one you fold out?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, not a folding razor. It's the one after that, pretty much. The one with the handle and the one blade on top.
Right.
You have the safety. You twist it to lock it down and unlock it.
And then how do you open it?
Untwist it.
Untwist it?
Yeah.
And then what? It pops up?
Yeah.
So it pops straight out and up?
Just Google safety razor. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
It doesn't fold out.
You'll see what I'm talking about. Most people know what a safety razor is.
I'm going to Bing it, though, because
you don't like Google.
Right.
And I went back to the old cup and shaving soap. And old school, it's called Clubman. I kid you not. The old school aftershave. My skin irritation has been through the floor. It's gotten so much better from using this device and from going old school. Once again, they did something right a long time ago. Yes, that's exactly it.
Okay, so I thought you were talking about the straight razor.
No.
Like an old straight razor.
No, I don't. I would if I trusted myself, but I'd be dead in the floor probably.
Hence safety.
I need the
razor.
safety. And I went back to that, and dude, let me tell you something. It takes a little bit longer. It takes a lot more skill. You have to take your time a little bit, but it's 10 times better.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to get the old school. You know when you go to a barber and they shave your neck, and then they put on the old school like aftershave on it to cool it and everything. And it smells awesome. Like it smells like a man's supposed to smell.
Wait, hang
like
on a
grandparents
second.
did.
You're getting a little too into this right
No.
here. You're like, when they put the stuff on your
No,
neck
I just,
and it smells like a man's supposed to smell, and the sweat's glistening all on the back
How
of
many
his...
guys
like,
walk by you
what's
right
wrong with
now and
you?
you're like, dude, are you wearing perfume or cologne? Which one are you wearing? Because I don't know right now. You know what I mean?
I don't smell dudes, Sean. I don't
You've
know
never
where
been in
you're
the
going with
elevator,
this.
and you wonder if it's Bruce Jenner or Caitlyn. You don't know which one got on the elevator with you, right? This stuff actually smells. It reminds me of my grandfather, a guy who used to lift rocks for a living and move them. Like just somebody who actually fought. You know what I mean? But it shows you that not everything new is better. And I've tried every razor in the world, the 12 blades, the 22 blades, the 952 blades, all the newest shaving cream and all that stuff, and it never went away. I started using this, and 2 weeks later, it is a godsend.
All right, so I want to use a straight razor.
Okay.
But I am not going to go around smelling men for comparison.
Okay.
And what prompted you to do that, I will never know, nor will I understand. Look, I don't judge you for it. Like, I appreciate the fact that you can talk about that particular comparison and you have that experience. I'm going to choose to take your word for it.
Okay. I'm just going to say, when I grew up, my whole family was full of real men who actually, like, wore cologne like real men, like Brute.
Like Paco Rabanne.
Yes.
Right?
Brute by Fabergé.
But it's Brute, but then it has a name like Fabergé. Don't they make eggs? Didn't they make the eggs?
No, that's Fabergé.
Same thing. Right? Cologne and eggs. I don't know.
Oh, Eddie Murphy. Get ready for the date and you get the Old Spice. Ah! Baby, baby, baby. That was one of the greatest stand-up comedy roles ever.
Was that Delirious?
No, that was it was Delirious. High Karate. There's another good old-fashioned cologne that you don't hear. High Karate. That is awesome. But if you wear High Karate, you have to wear like an Italian speed suit and like high-heeled loafer boots, Italian loafer boots. You can't just wear High Karate with jeans and a T-shirt. It doesn't carry over. I love the fact that I have everybody Googling safety razors and shaving cup and shave soap right now. It's just, you know what? Because I'm trying to get, I want to go back to like guys being guys. And I'm not getting on the Bruce Jenner thing because I could care less what other people do with. But we've become like this pansy, sissified men. And everything that gets put out there for us is always cuter and prettier and gentler and blah, blah. Well, you have to look nice and you have to look pretty and everything looks good. But no, we can be men. It's all right to be men. If I want to chew steak and burp, I'm a man, damn it. I can do that. If I want to smell like a man versus smelling like whatever some of these guys smell like these days, it needs to happen. See, and I'm not the only one. Ron in the chat room, Golf. He switched back to the safety rate about a month ago. Several battles. I'm acquiring the skill again. And it does take a little... There's actually a couple great YouTube videos out there that kind of give you little hints and trick on what to do it. If you do that with the old shaving cup and then you rinse with ice cold water, and then you put on old cologne, low alcohol content, boom, every single time. And when you wear old cologne, people notice. You get compliments. I several people, mostly women, who reminds me of my grandfather. Oh, you made me think of my dad. Something like, yeah, like back when men were men and sheep were scared. No, wait. But it makes all the difference in the world. So I encourage everyone out there. Let's start being dudes again. You know, let's go like just be dudes again.
Okay. Look, I'm all for being dudes again, and.
You're a little pretty.
We've been dudes for a while.
Yeah.
Like, we shoot guns.
Yep.
We
drink beer.
Tell bad jokes.
Dirty jokes.
There may be a Copenhagen ring.
Right.
And some jeans. Right. Like
karate vintage commercial. I love it.
We're real men. But
drink whiskey. Well, I can.
Right. Or bourbon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, but I just feel like as time has progressed, men have lost their ways. We're so worried about being about Instagram and you're wearing skinny jeans. Metrosexuals, and we have good friends of ours who could be described as metrosexuals.
We're going out tonight. Oh, I'm going to go to this store and buy a shirt.
Right. I'm like, I got a T-shirt on it. Right. It may not even fit, to be honest with you, but let's go for it anyhow.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you know, you go out to have fun, and you go out to kind of be a dude. And, you know, I just think we get so caught up in the BS of, we have to be softer, gentler, blow.
No, we don't.
You know, and it's this weird push from, like, the left, and especially feminists, to kind of push us down to lift them up, sort of thing. And you have to be.
Well, let's look at how even little boys are treated in schools.
Yes.
Right? Look at the difference in ADHD.
Oh, yes.
Right? Diagnoses between boys and girls. Boys are stinking out of their minds when they're younger.
Every boy is. Every boy is. Yep.
They are lunatics. They mature at a slower rate than girls.
They have more physical energy.
Yes, they are going to fight.
Yeah,
because that's what boys do, and everything is being stifled, even in school. So it's something that's being learned. Unfortunately,
it is being learned, and it's being discouraged. And the funniest part about it is some of the most manly men I know, and the ones who like the feminists call pigs, and they tell jokes around the water cooler, and they just hate blah blah. And they would be the last one to ever put their hands on women in anger, and the first ones to defend them.
Yep. And hold a door open for them.
Absolutely.
And get the car door for them, and pick up the check.
Yeah, and just do things. And it's something that bothers me more and more as time goes on, that just how pussified the male species has become. Like, poor Sacco, he's so far behind the 8 ball anyhow because he's so hairy. That alone is being discouraged these days. Oh, here we go.
Ooh,
now we have a conversation.
Sacco just said women these days are entitled, so guys don't want to do that stuff for them anymore.
Josh and I have been on a couple dates.
Well, but there's this weird discouragement of guys being guys and doing stuff like they used to do.
Look, when I hold a door open for a lady, I'm not trying to flirt or whatever, but just hold a door open because it's the gentlemanly thing to do. I get complimented.
Yeah, I also do it for guys
on it. Right, yeah, right. But I'm particularly women.
Right, I think women take notice of it more.
They absolutely take notice.
Whereas
of
guys,
it more.
I think it's just assumed that it's going to happen.
I was having lunch with some people, like a group of people, and there was a female there. It was with one of the other guys, and I stood up until everybody sat down,
and everyone looked at you like you were insane.
Right. But she noticed. Yeah, she punched her boyfriend and said, "Why can't you be like that?"
Right, and then he hated you for the rest of the night, by the way.
Yeah, I don't care.
Total chivalry. And as we get into these conversations, and everyone's talking about Caitlin or Bruce or whatever the heck his name is now or whatever it was, there's something being discouraged about men being comfortable about being men and boys being comfortable about being boys. And it's so weird, to think that after thousands of years we're going to try to offset who we are and try to push us into become people that we're not. And guys, at the end of the day, we're not prissy. Look, most guys,
we're going to be a weaker society as a result because we're discouraging kids and boys from playing cops and robbers, from playing good guy, bad guy, from running
which
around.
Teaches them morals.
Yes, it does. From running around with finger guns or Pop-Tart guns or anything else. And guess what? Who's going to defend our society when the generation of men who are willing and capable of doing that are gone?
Yeah, I agree.
Who's going to step up?
Right. I'll tell you right now, more and more people, and I don't care how many weights they lift at a gym and tattoos they have, but when a real challenge arises and something scary happens, you can tell the men that are raised, and actually even women to a point, that are raised to do the right thing by how they respond. And it's scary to me how many quote-unquote grown men will turn away when somebody's being assaulted or hurt or a woman's being beaten up or even a car accident. We had one outside of work the other day where there was a car that blew a red light and a transit train hit it, like smoked it. I mean, it was bad. No. Transit train, like a light rail train. And how many guys that were standing right there, and the person in the SUV was obviously in need of immediate medical attention.
How many people stood there and watched?
Right. And how many people actually moved? And by the time...
And how many people took out their phones to put it on YouTube?
Exactly.
Or to take pictures?
And by the time I got there were 3 actual human beings that were tending to the guy inside the vehicle.
Out of how many walking by?
Like 30, 40. Right. You know, a couple people did get on the train to check the people on the train. I'll give them credit for that too.
Or to get a free ride.
Wait for it to move. But how many people? There should have been 30 people trying to help. And the rest of them, it's not my problem. And a majority of them were men. Women in that situation, I say it all the time, women respond faster because I think it's a very motherly instinct when you see somebody hurt to try to help. And I think guys have a tendency to just turn their heads to anything. We've become a society. We turn away from our fellow citizens in true need because we don't want to get our skinny jeans hurt or dirty. Or
your skinny jeans.
Right, mine particularly. Or what's the $200 pair of jeans now that everybody's wearing that's has the weird design?
I don't know.
I don't know. But
I wear Wranglers.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so it's things like that society just needs a kick in the ass to kind of straighten ourselves out. Yeah, with a boot, a big one, a huge boot. Just needs to be done.
So you just took 17 minutes of
I'm sorry. You could have stopped me at any time.
No, I couldn't have, because then you would have cried about how you were talking about
I'm still a sensitive man.
Way to screw up the whole programming, Sean.
Sorry.
Next time you can do the board and add whatever topic. We'll talk about razors on a conservative political talk show.
Just talking about men being men.
Right. Yeah, because that's what we do here. You should have a show called Mannerisms or something and talk about this. Keep it on point here.
Oh, that show failed.
Miserably.
Got about 5 episodes in. 2/3 out of the ownership cut it. That was the best part about that.
Right.
I was the only one that voted for it. Actually, Sacco was the only one that voted for it. I even voted to cut it. It was that bad.
No, it was you and I. Like, I was honest with you. You were honest with yourself, and then Sacco felt bad, so he voted to keep it.
I don't want to hurt the poor guy's feelings. It's actually in our hourly minutes.
Right. It is. So an official report came out that TSA sucks 96% of the time. And I just love the title of that segment. Which is why I keep saying it.
Which is true, by the way.
It's complete. Why are we funding them? If they suck 96% of the time, if 67 out of 70 times bad things happen,
let's say you went
as part of the DHS Inspector General review, why are we paying them? So let me put this in perspective, and here's what kind of framed it in my mind here. We have an agency.
Yes.
The TSA.
Yes.
A huge agency,
by the
way.
Big agency.
With a lot of power that screens literally everybody that wants to fly on an airplane.
All the time.
In this country, all the time. Long lines, pisses people off, searching little kids.
Probed,
all kinds of things, right? And they have a fairly large budget.
Pretty ridiculously large budget.
We're paying something that fails 96% of the time.
Yes.
So we are subjecting ourselves to these searches.
Yes.
These warrantless searches.
Yes.
Because they say, well, you don't have to fly. Okay. We're subjecting ourselves to these warrantless searches when they're 96% ineffective. Would you use birth control that was 96% ineffective?
Would you go to a dentist that pulled 96 wrong teeth before getting the right one?
Right. Would you go to a doctor that misdiagnosed you 96% of the time? Under Obamacare, that's what we're going to get.
Right, exactly.
Right? So,
everything's lupus.
I guess it makes sense, right? Like 96% of the time your health care diagnosis is going to be wrong, 96%, and that's federal government.
Now, Mr. Lewis, I know I've been wrong in the past, but I'm pretty sure about this one. It's lupus. I have a hangnail. I'm going to come right back.
And then the judge or the doctor turns around and jumps on, and you see WebMD.
WebMD.
You're like, wait a second.
I just told you what it was. I'm here so you can remove it.
No, it's cancer.
Yeah, it's definitely lupus.
You're dying.
You just went with lupus. Okay, cancer.
Right.
It's diabetes.
Well, can I get a screen? No, it's too expensive.
It's too expensive.
You have like an hour.
You're past the point where it's worth the payment. What?
Right.
Yeah, no, essentially, if you were a car, you'd be totaled right now. A totaled car that has lupus.
Right. You are 10 pounds overweight, and so you are clearly a drain on society. So we figured the cancer could be good for you. Like, wait a second.
But when it comes, and here's the best part, I've said this before, it's not like they're like the post office that sends mail the wrong place 96% of the time. It's the people trying to keep bombs off planes. Their job's kind of, if you're going to frame them as the most important thing in air travel to date for safety, this is kind of an important thing.
I have a better idea.
Get rid of them.
Get rid of them.
Amen, baby.
Save the money. Look, if you want to have like explosive detectors or whatever that people go through as they board the plane, fine. If you want to throw luggage through explosive detectors, fine. But if you want to search every single person and take off your shoe and take...
How about this? Each airline can have it separately.
Right.
JetBlue? We're
not going to screen anybody.
We're going to have you walk through a metal detector and screen your luggage. Okay.
Right.
If
you don't like that because you don't think it's strict enough, fly something else.
Right. United, hey, we're going to put a probe up your rear end. Okay.
Okay, I'm into that kind of thing maybe, and so I'm good with it, right?
And I'm one of those people, I don't want to
take the probe.
I don't want to blow up on a plane.
Right. But then the cost goes to the consumer, and you're
and it also goes to the taxpayers.
But what I'm saying is here the cost goes to, you're paying for it in the price of your ticket. Save the tax dollars.
Right.
Have the airlines in charge of their own safety and screening, because bottom line, if 1 or 2 or 5 airplanes blow up, you're going to go out of business.
Yeah,
there is no better motivator than capitalism.
Right. If you're on Sacco's Air and Travel and his plane and he's losing 5 planes a week, maybe you're going to look to plan B.
Right. And then he's going to go out of business.
And every time I think of the TSA, I think of Airplane Part 2. When they're standing next to the metal detector, and all you see are the guys with the weapons coming through, and literally like an M60 and like a huge, and they're all bing, and then the old woman walks through, and they nailed this in 1977.
Yes.
The old woman with the walker wrong, and they grab her and throw her against the wall.
Because government inefficiency has not changed.
No, at all.
It has always been horrible.
At all. You know, I saw a tweet the other day. It says, TSA misses 90% of explosives but gets 100% of women in wheelchairs. You know, like...
Right.
And you just look at the reality of the situation. It's ridiculous to think that we're funding them and they have the amount of money. And it's not like TSA screeners get paid nothing.
Right. My favorite quote... the numbers in these reports never look good out of context.
What context?
Right.
Explosives?
You missed 67 out of 70.
And this is your own people telling you this. This is their whole job, is to go through the country. And it's not like, I guarantee you, it's not like there are these tiny little, could be or could not be things. I bet you it's pretty blatantly obvious that this is an explosive, a gun, blah, 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 blah.
But it shouldn't be.
Right.
And I think it's actually made challenging. But guess what?
That's their job.
The real folks that are going to do this are going to make it challenging.
Well, and you know what? If they came out with this report and they said they caught 67 out of 70, then you now have an argument for the TSA. Okay.
Right.
Well, you know what? They're doing their jobs. Let's pull out the bins of weapons and stuff like that that they pulled off people. Okay. But you don't get that. But you know what's going to happen?
Clearly, we need more training and we need a bigger budget so that our people can be better
Exactly.
prepared. We need more money to fix this.
And these guys, I hate the TSA, but if they actually were serving a purpose and they were actually doing something that you could argue was a positive for air travel, all these different things, that's fine and well and good. And, I know a lot of people get on the TSA employees as well, but it's a job. And if you're looking for a job and you get a federal job that pays decently and has benefits and stuff like that, I don't knock people for taking that job because they have to feed their family. But it's the design of it that is horrible. Yes, I'm sure there are some horrible TSA employees but I've also dealt with some really great ones. Just normal people like, sorry, I got to use the one. No, I get it. It's your job. I'm not going to give you a hard time, dude. But the overall in this report is that the entirety is a problem. And the nicest people in the world, if they're not catching the bombs, if they're not catching the knives, if they're not catching the guns, I don't want you. I would rather take a bomb dog at every single gate. because at least it's less invasive. It's still invasive, but it's less
invasive. If you're worried
invasive.
about explosives, do that. If you're worried about guns on an airplane, arm your pilots. Canines, go for it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I don't care if I sit on a plane with an explosives dog. As a matter of fact,
I would actually like that.
I would like that. I'd be happy because it would give me somebody to pet and talk to on the entire trip. But, you know, I understand, and we talked earlier about the risk of liberty versus freedom and,
Hang on a
tyranny.
second. I want to read from TSA's website here. Clearly, this is all BS. It says, TSA was created to strengthen the security of the nation's transportation systems and ensure the freedom of movement for people and commerce. TSA uses a risk-based strategy and works closely with transportation, law enforcement, and intelligence communities to set the standard for excellence in transportation security. So, a couple parts of this, right? Risk-based strategy. We're going to do a crappy job and just take the risk that nothing bad's going to happen. Okay, so I get that part of it. And then they said they set the standard for excellence. Obviously, it's pretty low. The standard for excellence is 4%. So if the standard for excellence...
It's typical government standard for excellence, 4%.
So if the standard for excellence is 4%, based upon this review, then that means government's doing a pretty damn good job.
Yes.
Right?
On their standards.
And if they're doing 2%, they're like, we have some improvement.
Well, listen, there's obviously...
If they're doing 2%, we're doing 50%, which sounds better than 2%.
Right. I mean, it's all a matter of numbers. It's all numbers, really.
Right. If they do 3%, we have a 75% success rate because 100% we're actually before.
Right, and if we were playing baseball, if you had a 750 batting average, you'd be the Triple Crown winner.
Absolutely. So we're doing a damn good job.
So we at the TSA...
So at 4%, we're batting 1,000.
We're batting 1,000.
We just proved.
That should be the TSA's motto. TSA, we're batting 1,000.
Right, and then put this segment of the show on their website to explain the government math about how they actually got 100%. And maybe that's what he meant when he said the numbers look bad out of context.
Out of context, they look horrible.
Because out of context,
I
when
agree,
you're talking
they
about
look
setting
terrible.
the bar, it's 4%. But when you look at where the bar is set, they are at 100%. TSA is doing an amazing job. I don't know why I titled this segment "TSA sucks 96% of the time."
You should have
Clearly,
said TSA nails it 100% of the time.
TSA nails it 100% of the time of the standards they set.
TSA batting 1,000, and you still might blow up. That's what they should call it.
Right.
It's just absolutely frightening.
Their mission: protect the nation's transportation systems to ensure freedom of movement for people and commerce.
Oh, very nice.
Look, explosive devices can be commerce.
Right. If somebody purchased it and or they're going to sell it,
right,
it could very well be
Therefore,
commerce.
maybe they were still nailing this whole mission.
Well, and you look at it, too, is maybe they have to have a couple drinks to press the button. That's commerce.
Right. Ooh, but then their vision, it says it's a high-performing counterterrorism organization.
Well, see, now we're exaggerating.
Right. Well, not if we're talking about that 100% based upon the bar
Even
they set.
Even that. We might be exaggerating that a little bit.
Yeah. Core values: integrity, innovation, and team spirit. Integrity, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Innovation: they come up with new ways to search 2-year-olds and old ladies in wheelchairs.
On a regular basis.
So we have to kind of give them that one.
And what was the last one?
Team spirit. I've seen them high five after they anal probe, like, the old
I've
guy.
never seen a high five.
You never have?
No.
I've seen a high five once.
As a matter of fact, I would say that would be the one thing that sticks out to me as the biggest lie. Because
Is that they
I
have
don't,
team spirit?
Yeah, I don't even know if you've been to
You haven't seen their cheerleaders?
If you ever been to a busy airport with the TSA, some of them don't even look at each other. It's the weirdest thing in the world. And maybe it's because they've watched them grope people for the last couple of years, and it's just like that creepy. I don't want to look at him.
Maybe they've groped each other, like
for practice, right? I had this one guy. One time I was flying out of Logan. I went off and I had belt on and blah blah blah. So he's like, I get a pat frisk you. I was like, that's all right, but I might moan during it. And he looked at me and he said, I'll give you $10 if you do. And I high-fived him.
Did you moan?
Of course not. I wasn't going to take his money. The poor guy only does his job 96% of the time.
He offered it up. I'd have taken that $10.
He only does it 4% of the time.
Because I'd look at it as a tax refund.
We're up against a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about ISIS and everything that's going on with them and wrap up the show here.
Completely unrelated for 17.
Awesome. And we're going to tie up the show here on the Sackheads Radio Show, SHR Media Network, back in about 3.5 or 4 if Sacco gets happy and hits buttons left and right and just goes all Sacco-y on us.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. That you didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean,
Dude, I'm not saying cough was stupid, bro.
Sackhead Clint,
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on the Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberties, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Who listens to the Andrea Kaye Show? Let's find out as we eavesdrop on listener Roger Johnson in Encinitas.
You know, if our policy is going to be bring any child who comes across the border to coordination, we got to take them in.
Okay, so apparently Roger fell asleep in the middle of my brilliant political tirade, and now he plans to sue me because I put him on the air, sleeping. Obviously, he's a liberal.
Snoring, not an option while listening to the Andrea Kaye Show, Tuesday mornings at 11 on Financial News and Talk.
You know I'm right. Y'all know I'm right.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Welcome back to the Sackheads Radio Show, live on the SHR Media Network. I'd like to welcome our two viewers who are not the TSA monitors into the chat room. Thank you so much.
Well, because if they were, they're so advanced, they would actually sign in as TSA Monitor 1 and 2.
Agent A and Agent B, just hanging out.
Not TSA 1.
Not TSA.
Not TSA 2.
Well, it's like the van that's always parked outside our office that says, definitely not the FBI, but a flower company. Which I've never seen a flower company have so many antennas. Oh, and viewer number 3 now. Awesome.
And that one says not FBI.
Not FBI as well. So you remember our old friends ISIS? I haven't heard about them in a little while. Not a perfect science. But they're taking the human element out of it, which is scary in a couple different reasons. It's kind of like a drone in the sense that you can have people operating at thousands of miles away, and there's not that personal contact involved into it. And you're not going to have the body move at the last minute. You're not going to have maybe the breathing be off, and they have to take that shot at that second that they're maybe weren't 100% X, Y, and Z. And it can be set up anywhere, and it can be operated anywhere. And that's frightening, especially in this country. Because, I think of incidents like the Texas Tower in the 60s. You set it up in a place like that, and you're going to have law enforcement show up. You're going to have mass loss of life. And even while they're setting up, and if they figure out a way to put a 100-round barrel onto it, or a 100-round magazine somehow, or a belt-fed magazine, if they modify the weapon to somehow get that done, you now have a situation where law enforcement may not know right off the bat, and they're trying to advance because law enforcement in this country and an active shooter and things like that, they advance until the threat is stopped. Well, you have a person up there that's not afraid of their lives because once they catch it, it's done. And they're just sitting there popping off rounds at police officers who are trying to advance thinking there's an active shooter person up there. And it changes the game. It's a game changer. So you're seeing that. You're also seeing these suicide trucks, steel-plated, remote control operated, and they're operated with pistons, essentially like a remote control car. They have hydraulics inside that control it. They have a camera system to operate it. Have you ever seen Ocean's 11? It's like the new one, the newest one, the one with George Clooney, the remakes.
Yeah.
It's like the van in Ocean's 11, where they thought the money was dropped into and they followed it to the airport. That's kind of what it is, only except for when the bomb goes off and it's a whole bunch of nudie advertisements as it was in the movie. It's a real bomb and an explosion. And because there's no driver, it can drive towards a military installation. And unless the engine is
heavy
stopped,
enough to be able to go through particular checkpoints,
right? And unless they can stop it before it hits it, it's going to get through. And let's say
you're not going to stop that with small arms fire.
No, they have to be sitting there waiting with some sort of anti-tank missile
or some other kind of armor to stop it, slow it, something.
Physically stop it, right? And they're putting armor in front of the block and the engine to make sure that any rounds coming in are going to stop it. There's no person inside to duck or make that mistake or swerve because they get scared. So that's another advancement that ISIS has made that is absolutely frightening. And if they can do this overseas, folks, it can be done here. They've watched the A-Team a few times. Mm-hmm. And now they have people with the know-how, and electronics is so readily available that it's really, really a scary thing.
It is, and the rifle they recovered the operator had to be there in pretty close proximity to it. There were long cables that were attached to the various components. But you could make that a remote-controlled system.
Easily.
Very, 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 very easily. And that's the thing that's scary. But, how much captured U.S. equipment do they have also?
Right.
That was supplied to the
armored
Iraqi
Humvees.
Yeah.
With run-flat tires.
C4.
Yeah.
Tanks.
Massive. Right? You have all these different components. But
I want to know how long until ISIS gets an air wing.
Oh, I bet you they have planes that they're operating. They may only be Cessnas right now. But listen,
until they actually take some kind of air base or get it down.
And get enough pilots, yeah.
And get some pilots and actually have...
Well, and I argue... By the way, Ron in the chat room had the best idea ever. There are no more good late-night TVs. The Sackhead Should Go video with Sacco as an Ed McMahonish type person.
If we went internet television, we got to look into that.
We can look into that. I'll tell you right now, a lot of Vaseline in my lens. You really have to soften it up.
That's kind of dirty. We don't need to talk about Vaseline in your O-ring or whatever you just said. Let's just get back on topic.
And Agenor in the chat room says, they already have some planes and they're already starting pilot training. I've argued now they've been wearing uniforms more and more. And just because they're not traditional uniforms like our military wears doesn't mean it's not uniform. They've set a caliphate, which is essentially a state, in their opinion. Now, the borders may kind of expand and contract a little bit depending on the fighting that's going on. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Their borders, I'm going to say something really offensive, but I don't care. I think it's funny. Their borders are like a woman's mood.
Right.
It's going to expand and contract and constantly change.
Right. They have a higher form of government. They have a set of laws that they make people abide by. Lars. And they have a flag that they fight under. At what point are we at war with another country?
Or they carry it with them or post it places if they're not directly under
it. Right. No, right.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
But at what point are we not at war with another country?
I think we are at war.
I think we're absolutely at war with another country.
With a rogue nation.
Rogue nation. This is really
I wouldn't even call them a nation, but we are at war with an entity. Why does it say we have to declare war is something that's declared between two
countries?
No,
I would argue it's a country, though. They have a central form of government. They collect taxes. They have their own, I wouldn't call it a constitution because that makes me think of freedom. But they have their own papers of damnation.
The Quran?
Yeah, that's one of them. And then they have some other ones outside of that. We have to...
No, that wasn't a smart Alex. That's one of the things that they go by, that they quote all the time for their particular beliefs.
Right.
To establish these things.
And Ag in the chat room, don't misunderstand me. I know what you're saying.
We are at war now.
We are at war now, but at what point does our country realize that we are actually at war with another nation or another entity?
I think we are at war with another entity.
Right. And not just this, but I think that it gets portrayed as these ragtag group. And you look at, Marie Harf from the State Department when they're talking about ISIS and Josh Earnest, and they portray them just as these just kind of lunatic terrorists who are just kind of running around and creating havoc here and there. And yeah, we win some and we lose some, and but it's really not. We're not fully engaged, so we don't see it. But when you see Iraq being forced out of Ramadi and Syria, the military being pushed back by ISIS, and Syria against a foe in that area, Syria was not a weak military per se. They had pretty decent Russian training. They had pretty decent equipment. Yeah, it wasn't top of the line. Like, we would smoke them as a country if we ever went toe-to-toe with them. But in this situation, they were more than able to deal with it, and they couldn't. Iraq is the same thing, and I think it's going to expand. They're now making allegations that they're going to be attacking South Israel within the next few months. And then no sooner did they say that, did Israel get hit with 4 or 5 rocket attacks today alone.
Yeah.
And, you could say it's Hamas. Well, who's in charge?
At what point does Israel say, war's been declared on us?
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? They just made the threat, and then we're getting bombed. It might be Hamas. It might not be. We're not taking any chances. Cause
we know they're coming, and so they've declared war.
We're not a country to take chances anymore. We don't do that. We can't do that. Our survival is too important to us. So, and what was the other one? There was they had a drone. They've had drones, not for offensive equipment, but they had them for surveillance and items, things like that they've been using. And there was another major one too. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. That was kind of like, it really turned my head when I saw it. But the big two are the remote control capabilities, and like you said, yeah.
Our earlier story, we have ISIS operating here in the United States, or people that are operating at the behest of ISIS, including the plot to behead police officers today. So if we have they are here.
Yes.
We should then have authorization to be there and have our military be involved. And don't get me wrong, I was hesitant to have our military get involved. However, we now know we have ISIS operating here. We have had the Texas cop shoot and kill the terrorists. We've had the Boston cops today shoot and kill the terrorists. ISIS that was planning on doing things here in the United States. Look, if Russia was planning attacks here in the United States and we killed their operatives here, then we would be at war with that country.
Yes.
And we would send
we would absolutely deal with the problem.
This seems like a no-brainer at this point.
And then an ISIS magazine pointing out how they can smuggle a nuclear weapon in through Mexico into this country, in one of their magazines discussing it. Yes. And the other thing too is, I know the argument, oh well, the guys that are just over here are just ISIS, they just ISIS influenced. Well, there's no sign up. This is ISIS's intention is to get them
lone
to come
wolf
here
style attacks
and commit these attacks, and not even lone wolf, small group, small unit tactics, whatever.
No, but lone wolf meaning small autonomous groups or individuals that are operating outside of the central.
But it's coming from the encouragement of ISIS, and they're using ISIS as the inspiration.
It is.
That's
and
no
they
different.
Are affiliates.
They are absolutely affiliates. They have a lot to believe in together, and that to me says at that point they're ISIS. They don't need to have a patch on that says ISIS in order to be members of ISIS. So, like you said, they are here. We need to be there. And let's start by doing some real air raids. At least let's start there and show that we're kind of serious. Let's start getting something done there.
Yeah, not having our pilots land with full payloads.
Right. When Ramadi gets taken and you think of all the lost human lives and blood that was spilled in Ramadi.
American lives.
Yeah. That's what I meant. But you think of that, and it's shocking that we are not more outraged when you lose a city like Ramadi. And they just shut off the dam in Ramadi and cut water to that entire region, and they're going to dry them out and try to starve them out.
Yeah.
Essentially. So when you look at this from ISIS, we as a country need to get over this belief, and the State Department and the administration does this as well. They portray them as just almost like these just little weird instigating bullies.
I hate to say it, but when public opinion will shift on this.
It has.
When even more so when something happens here, when law enforcement's unable to stop it.
Oh, yeah. Well, and one of the things that, going back to that Shepard Smith interview, one of the things that he said to Josh Earnest is, hey, I think it's like 65% of the public disagrees with how the president is dealing with ISIS, and he said something to the effect of, well, the president isn't interested in polls. But that's
what does he need to be interested in polls for? Because he is not up for re-election.
But at the end of the day, that's the country that you lead, and your people are responding, and
he's the elected representative, though, and he's not going to run for another office. So what does he care what the polls say?
Exactly. But it tells you that we're mishandling ISIS, and even those on the left are agreeing that this isn't the way to go.
Right.
And this appeasement approach is not going to work, because they're not planning on eventually being friends with us.
It's never worked.
And they're not going to be friends with us.
We used to pay tribute to Muslim extremists when
didn't
we were
work
under Washington and Adams. It didn't work until Jefferson went in and kicked their ass.
Right. That was the only thing they responded to. So at some point we have to get beyond that thought, and this country needs to take this much more serious than it does.
I think this country takes it serious. This administration certainly does not. But I think people will be even more vocal about it in terms of, hey, we actually have to do something when American lives are lost here on our soil. Instead of just some abstract, this attack was going to happen and we stopped it. This was going to happen. Oh, well, it was. They're just at some point the public may say, that we stopped it. We don't really need to go over there and kill
Garland.
them.
Garland could have been a lot different.
We stopped it. And here's the sad part with the way attitude is in this country towards law enforcement. With ISIS beheading cops, that's not going to do it.
Right.
I don't think the public's going to care.
Not enough.
Like, there's going to be some people that are going to care, don't get me wrong.
Major metropolitan cities, there are large portions of that population that'll salute it.
Yeah, they'll say, okay. So it's not going to have that terror value that ISIS is looking for.
No, it's not. It'll have it, but they won't get the response that we need in this country, because too many people would be like, oh, it's just another dead pig.
Right.
Sadly.
Yeah.
And I weep for our future if things don't change in this country really quick. Weep.
That was depressing.
Yeah, way to end that on a downer. Good job.
That's your segment.
Sacco is quite literally hiding under the table in the fetal position,
shaking.
Rocking right now.
Shaking.
See, there he is.
There he is.
I'm sorry.
There's a puddle.
I know. Yeah, that was not there earlier. That's the most bizarre
that was not
thing.
There before that segment, which is kind of weird.
Couple things in the future here that you want to look at SHR Media. The Sackheads Late at Night talk show.
Hang on a second. I want to know how many people in the chat room are going to meet us at Freedom Fest.
I do want to know if there's a Freedom Fest number out there. And if email Sacco if you're going to go. It's Sacco at shrmedia.com. He loves to check his email and interact with our listeners, so that's pretty awesome. And, we're going to be there in Radio Row. We're going to have our own booth. Sacco will absolutely be there with the sign that says, "Do not feed the Sacco." Clint will be there with the sign that says...
Billy Rosewood.
Billy Rosewood. Sorry, Billy Rosewood will be there with the sign that says free rhinoplasty accepted. I will be there with an Atkins Diet sign. So we're really going to get everything going.
Atkins Diet sign. I'm going to be there with a rhinoplasty advertisement.
Yeah, I'm going to be there with the "Follow Me to the Buffet" T-shirt on. Why not, right?
Right. Cops follow me to the food.
Yeah, exactly. Where's the fire? Near the buffet.
Somebody told me once, you want to know a place to eat, ask a cop.
Yeah.
Because the cops know all the good places to eat.
But you know what my old man will tell you is 100% true. 100% true. They always know the best place to eat.
Yeah.
And it's always good. So,
not the fire guys. They make tri-tip at their own station, rescue cats.
Yeah. They literally put cats in the tree and practice rescuing them while they're cooking
right,
tri-tip.
all the time. And rolling all of their trucks and rigs to the scene just so they can document that they rolled it out on a call.
22 trucks, cat stuck in the tree.
It doesn't matter. We rolled the truck 22 times.
Well, the cat ran when you guys first pulled up. Yeah, we scared him out. He's safe now.
What were your calls? Listen, we had calls.
Like my old man used to say, have you ever seen a dead cat in a tree? Never. You've never seen it. You've never seen a dead cat in a tree. Right. They all come down eventually.
No. The fire guys rescue them.
That's right. The fire guys rescue them. Absolutely ridiculous. Freedom Fest. Hey, you got to check out our new broadcast schedule on SHR Media. We have so many awesome shows that we've added. If you go to shrmedia.com, click on broadcast schedule, you can see which show's on at which time. Just some great, great shows, including our friend Agador. Kel Fritzy's on. Obviously, Ken. Josh Bernstein's now on SHR Media. Really, there's a lot of just awesome shows out there. Every single day on the hour, Dan Butcher from Pundit Press is giving us a Pundit Press news update, so you'll check that out every hour on the hour.
I love having good quality news segment on there now. You know?
As do I.
Yeah, just on top of every hour, something that people can count on. I like that.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. I'm really excited about that. And we have more coming, too. And make sure you check out a lot of our shows are also on our Spreaker downloads. If you have a chance, make sure you check that out and get the great shows. And listen, we told you at the beginning of this year we're going to make some big changes here at the SHR Media. We're going to expand, going to get a lot more great patriotic voices involved in the mix, and we're doing just that.
What does that mean? Does that mean they're going to sing the national anthem?
I hope so.
Does that mean they're going to sound
the voice of
liberty?
Liberty?
Sound like Lincoln?
The voice of Liberty.
Got it.
Which I think is one of the new shows we added. No. So just a lot more, and it's getting better every day. So we're really excited about that. We're going to do some website tweaks here and there. And by that, I mean Sacco's going to actually do it.
Nobody in the chat room is saying they're coming to Freedom Fest.
I'm a little disappointed, too. But your chat room could have froze 10 minutes ago. I'm not sure.
This is true.
All that and more. Coming up tomorrow at 12 in the East, 9 in the West is my show, The Edge of Liberty, 1360 WNJC in Philadelphia. Chat room's always open for that. You're going to show up someday, right? Like, you've said it a bunch of times. I'm going to call in. Not once. Hasn't happened once.
I'm just so enthralled in what you're saying. I mean, really, what could I bring to the conversation?
Just saying, it would be nice if my partner in crime just, Sacco's called twice.
I have.
Sacco, S-A-C-O. Is it that time? Are we out already? We're having so much fun. So, yeah, just, if you ever think about it, just pick up the phone. I said 2-3 minutes. Just say hi, wish me luck.
I wish you luck.
Hey, thanks, buddy.
Just play this. I wish you luck.
13-minute conversation about peanut butter.
Yeah, it was a great show. You missed that whole thing. It was good.
Oh, yeah, I missed the 13-minute conversation on peanut butter.
You should have been there for it. You would have learned a lot. Hey, that's it for us right here.
Peanut butter.
On the Sackheads Radio Show. Make sure you check us out on Twitter and on Facebook and all the other social media that you can possibly find. We're there. We're happy about it. We'll see you next week, folks. At 11 in the East, 8 in the West here on the SHR Media Network.
I like the Energizer Bunny. You just keep talking. You just keep going.
my job, baby.
End it. The music's playing.
No, now I can end it because it's a minute.
Just end it. We'll be back next week.
It's called the stop set. I'm just doing it.
Tomorrow.
I know, but I have to do it. Just stop. I'm trying.
The best late night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here too. But for those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio.
Sackheads. Sackheads.
Radio.
Sackheads. Sackheads.
Radio.
Sack. Sack.
The best late night conservative talk show in America. In America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.